सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। Jai Gurudev. And welcome back, Percy ji. It's so good to have you back. And thank you for sharing all those words of wisdom while you were not around.
I'm glad to be back. Thank you.
So we'll go back to the previous verse. We did this 2 times over yesterday, but we'll just read this. This was the 22nd verse. Which is Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grinnati naroparani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. So just as a person gives up old clothes and takes up new ones, so too the indweller of the body gives up old bodies and takes others which are new. So we went through all of this. We'll just go through the last bit. We saw God is not a tyrant. Yeah, I will read from here. So only a sadistic God could be a tyrant, enjoying the suffering of people for no reason. Some are born with wooden spoons, others with silver and golden spoons, and some are born with no mouth at all. What kind of God would do this? Some are born to become orphans. Why then are they even born? Don't ask, we are usually told. This is what is called double justification. God is first justified by what he does, and then we are told not to question his actions. Why even talk about such a God then? Let us settle our account with ourselves. We have our own lot. You have a body here which has its own problems. You do not require God at all for this. And if there is such a tyrant, it is better not to think of him at all. On the other hand, so this is one aspect of looking at God as the one who gives us everything. So this is the double justification. First, you say God is, he does what he does, and then say you don't ask. Don't ask about justification, about why he does what he does. On the other hand, perhaps the explanation is that we have asked for our particular lot in life. God is the law. We asked for it and we got it. The Lord says, I am the one who made you, and at the same time, I have not made you. This is like putting your finger into the fire and then asking the fire, did you burn me? Yes, I burnt you, says the fire. Why? I didn't burn you at all. You just told me you burnt me and then you say you did not. How can you say both? You are blowing hot and cold. I thought you blew only hot, and now I find you blow both hot and cold. Why is that? When you stuck your finger into me, I burned. To burn is my nature, my swabhava, and I burned. I cannot say that someone else burned. I burnt your finger, but then I did not go after your finger, did I? I remained in my place. You stuck your finger into me and got burnt. In other words, you asked for it. This is the law and is what is meant by the law of karma, prarabdha karma. It is the jiva's karma, the law of karma being there. If you accept a soul that survives the body, then you definitely have to account for the varieties of situations that you face. Thus, prarabdha karma is the reason why a person, a dehi, comes with a particular deha which dies when the job is done. What is it that is new with reference to taking on a new body? Who is to decide what is new? Car rental people always buy new cars and after 1 year sell them. For them, a 1 year old car is old, but the one who buys it thinks of it as new. Others may buy a much older car and also think of it as new, whereas the seller thinks of it as old. Of course, there are even others who buy very old cars, fix them up, and are very happy that they have the oldest car available because it is a valuable antique. Who then is to decide which of these is new? Similarly, the king of Tiruvananthapuram in the south of India must walk to the temple every day wearing new clothes. The clothes he wears one day are considered old the next day and are given away. Of course, the one who receives the clothes thinks of them as new. This person may wear them for a year or two and then also think they are old. There is always someone who will take them. That is why it is said that there is a buyer for everything. You have to decide what is new. Similarly, here, what is old or new has to be decided by the Dehi and not by you, the onlooker. For the onlooker, the body may not be ready for death, but for the Dehi, the job is done. Those who are bereaved may look at a particular death as something that is premature, but this is not the case from the standpoint of the Dehi. unless the death is caused by some wrong action, that is, the abuse of free will on the part of oneself or someone else. Otherwise, it is for the Dehi to decide when the body's job is done. In other words, when the purpose for this body was taken has been accomplished. So the Dehi here is the indweller of the body, of individual body, and not the onlooker. So who decides what is old or new depends only on the Dehi. When the Dehi indweller thinks, yes, this time is done, I'm done, this has become old, this body has become old, then the Dehi will leave the body. So no matter whether the Dehi, the body is young like an infant, even if we consider all the abortions, that is even on the in the eyes of the onlooker, it is still an unborn baby. But the day he decides that is it, its time is up. This has become old. This, whatever the fetus, the body has become old, so it leaves the body. So on, so forth with respect to premature deaths and um, so it is the Dehi who decides and is not God. Even though the Dehi may like to live on, the job for which this body was taken is done. When it is done, the tenure is over. Whatever had to happen here has already happened. Therefore, death takes place. Just as in the world, a person takes on new clothes and gives up the old ones, so too, the one who indwells in the body, the jiva, gives up the old body and takes on the new. What is meant by old bodies is to be understood properly. Therefore, for the Dehi, the one who indwells the Deha, there is no death at all. And for the Deha, there is no survival. The body is bound by time, subject to change, and it keeps changing all the time. There is no time when the body does not change. Because it is always changing, it is called Sharira or Deha. Deha means that which is subject to cremation, and Sharira means that which is subject to disintegration, that which is buried. The choice then is only between these two. So, Deha is one that is subject to cremation, and Sharira is the one that is subject to disintegration.
How come they are two different? Isn't they are synonyms, Deha and Sharira?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the meaning.
Because just one line ahead, they said it is always changing. It is called Sharira or Deha, but in the next they describe it differently.
Sharira, here it is, I don't want the Sharira.
Sharira is the body we know, and Deha is again that body.
Yeah, it is like how everything is explained, like Nara is explained. I was wondering if there is an explanation for Sharira. Here, Sharira refers to the body of three types as defined in the Shiva Purana. Accordingly, the body is of three types: the gross, subtle, and causal. Well, in Tattvabodh, we learned that the Sharira, Stula Sharira, is subject to Asti, Jayate, Asti, Vardhate, Viparinamate, Apakshiyate, Vinashyatiti, Shad Vikaravat, Etat Stula Sharira. So that is the nature of the Sharira. Whereas Deha is that which
Deha is the
subject to cremation.
Sharira. So the Deha is the Sthul Sharira, and the Sharira is composed of all the three Sukshma, Karan, and like all the Kosh which we read, Sharira, because then Deha, the Sthul Sharira, it is subject to cremation, whereas Sharira, composing of all the layers, it is subject to disintegration. But that which is buried, I don't.
I'm just looking at this. Deha. It says envelope of the soul. Yeah, I think. So etymologically inherited from the Prakrit Deha, from Sanskrit Deha, from. Well, I think for our understanding, whether it is cremation or disintegration, it is subject to change. I think for us, if we understand, that is fine. Rather than
disintegration means it mingles with the all the panchabhutas.
Yeah.
See, that is what it is.
Yeah, but the disintegration is fine, but the next they are dating that which is buried. So this is again.
Buried also is, it will automatically disintegrate, not totally.
Okay.
It will mingle with the, even if it is buried, it takes time.
Yeah.
But when we cremate, we make it ash and then flow it into the water so that it mingles with the panchabhuta. So it is buried or cremation, both is disintegration. Thank you.
I think the implied meaning here, Sharira, Deha, both are subject to change. Deha means that which is subject to cremation, and Sharira means that which is subject to disintegration, that which is buried. The choice then is only between these two. So the thing is, what Swamiji is trying to drive is, there are some religions where the body is buried, and there are some others that cremate the body. So the choice is between just whether to cremate or to bury. But there is no other choice. The Deha anyway is subject to change. The Deha is not eternal. It is the Dehi which is eternal. So the Deha is subject to, is within the time space, is bound by time. The Deha is always subject to death and is always dying. It is not that suddenly one fine day it dies. Rather, it keeps on dying all the time. You cannot stop it. Whereas in the case of the Dehi, you cannot destroy it. Both facts must be seen clearly. This being so, there is no cause for grief. Ashocyan anvashochahatvam. A theme that continues and is the conclusion. That there is no cause for grief is the vision of the Shastra, and being so has a bearing upon the entire dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. As we proceed, we shall see that there are topical connections, sectional connections, and a total connection with this theme throughout the Gita. So, the one central point that Gita is driving at is Ashocyan Anvashochastvam. There is no cause for grief, and everything else is connected to this. Anyone wants to share before we go to the next verse?
One thing I like. I was just thinking over the death which is caused by some wrong action, and that is abuse of free will on the part of oneself or someone else. in that case, like the Dehi is like if it suddenly leaves the body, then like what the mission wasn't completed, but they say that it remains, it doesn't take birth easily also, like it is not at peace. So then how the further whatever the task remaining or whatever the prarabdha karma was remaining, then how will it exhaust, like and if it is not taking birth? You as Guruji once said, no, that the people who do suicides, their atma, like they that feeling that in a sudden there's a in a very cold situation they take off the clothes, and what state that is, it is that compared to that state. So like I was just thinking over ki how would their karmas be exhausted then? I know it's a very vague and unnecessary thought, but just came.
What the Gurudev also says is that they linger around. So probably they will linger around till whatever their prarabdha karma is done. And then again they follow the same life cycle of birth and death.
Yeah, no, they linger on. Then how do they take birth? Just wondering that, like they'll not take birth easily. So how the next whichever karmas were left, then how would they be like exhausted, or
Yeah,
will
that
be?
is why Gurudev says that is the last thing. You should never ever do that, number one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then to answer to your question, maybe we can just wonder. Because we do not know. That's a mystery. There are certain things that we can understand. There are certain other things that we just wonder about what would happen. Yeah.
See,
Maybe Kathopanishad will give us some answers about life after death.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to point out about the suicide here. What happens? We are in the mind. Okay, the body is in the mind. When mind expands, that is, when we do the mind completely expands, every cell of the body also expands, and even body, though physically may not expand, it can attain the infinite, like that. So when suicide happens, what happens? Mind is depressed. We are covered by the mind sheet, the mind sheet. So when you depress it, it presses the body. That is what Guruji says, it presses the body as if it is very cold and he wants to remove it, come out of that pressure. So when the mind becomes depressed, the body is pressed completely. It is just pressed, and he wants to. Everyone wants to come out of the freedom. So that is what, like a jacket, a tight jacket. If he wears, he wants to open it. That is what the suicidal.
And then what happens in like accidents, or somebody kills you? Then it is
Then
not
the
your choice.
deha has gone. No,
Yeah.
deha means the body which is created by the Panchabhutas. It grows, and all, it dies like that. So accidentally, it is subject to death. Prana goes, So it is a death only. Sharira also is this one, but it is buried. Means it disintegrates very slowly into the soil. Unless we have not put it in the tomb or like that, like what you call that, Gaza, the pyramids, unless it is saved like that. Otherwise, the moth or the soil, it eats the body. So it disintegrates there. So I felt this is the point. Thank you, Jai Gurudev.
Thank you, Suresh. I think we should move. I understood.
I think the answer maybe what this example of the fire, of the finger burning. You're putting your finger in fire. That is quite relevant. Here, you have put your finger in there. Fire was just being its nature. It did not burn you. You have burnt your finger. You have put your finger in the fire and therefore you burnt it. Similarly, here the central theme here, what the point they want to drive back is that the deha is changing, ever changing, and is subject to death, birth and death, whereas the dehi is eternal. So even in the case of the person who commits suicide out of depression, whatever, it is the sukshma sharira which is that's still lingering on, that vasanas are still there. But the dehi, the one that is the indweller, that is different. I mean, that is anyway eternal. Irrespective of whether it is a sinner, a terrorist, or even whether it is Duryodhana, Bhishma, Karna, Drona, Arjuna, anyone. The Dehi is the common factor which is eternal. And no one can kill the Dehi. Dehi cannot be destroyed. All the rest of it is only an illusion, is again Maya working up. That is why it is said, Ashochan Anvashochastva. Like I said, I think Kathopanishad will open up more about this life after death. Let's do that afterwards. So as we proceed, we shall see that there are topical connections, sectional connections, and a total connection with this theme throughout the Gita. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na chainam kledayantyapo, na shoshayati marutaha. Shastrani, weapons, enam, this self, na chindanti, do not cut. Pavakaha, fire, enam, this, na dahati, does not burn. Apaha, waters, enam, this, na kledayanti, do not wet. Marutaha cha, and the wind, na shoshayati, does not dry. Shastrani enam na chindanti. Pavakaha enam na dahati. Apaha enam na kledayanti. Marutaha cha na shoshayati. Weapons do not cut this, the self, nor does fire burn it. Water does not wet or drown. or drown it, and wind does not dry it. In verse 16 and again in verse 20, Krishna said that for the self, which is real, Sat, there is no absence. Let me just chant the 16th verse. Sixteenth is Nasato vidyate bhavo na bhavo vidyate sataha ubhayorapi drishtontaha tvanayostattvadarshibhihi. He says the unreal has no existence, and for the real never ceases to be. The reality of both has been perceived by the seers of the truth. And then Avina, the 17th also I will chant. Avina Shitu Tad Vidhi Ena Sarvamidam Tatam Vinashamavyayasya Na Kaschit Kartumarhati. Know that alone to be imperishable, which pervades this universe, for no one has power to destroy this indestructible substance. And then the 21st was Veda Vinashinam Nityam Ya Enamajamavyayam Katham Sapurusha Partha Kam Ghatayati Hantikam. Arjuna, the man who knows this soul to be imperishable, eternal, and free from birth and decay, how and whom will he cause to be killed? How and whom will he kill? That's verse 20 also, right? So that is Najayate mriyate va kadachit Nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyaha Ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. The soul is never born, nor it ever dies, nor does it become on being born. For it is unborn, eternal, everlasting, and primeval. Even though the body is slain, the soul is not. So in verse 16 and again in verse 20, Krishna said that for the self which is real, Sat, there is no absence. Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate satah. It is not subject to negation in any of the three periods of time. Abadhitam Satya. This statement cannot be shaken because that which is not subject to negation cannot be negated, and truth, Satya, is not subject to negation. You yourself are this truth. If you have any doubt, try to negate yourself. The very person doing the negation is the one you are trying to negate. You find, therefore, that it is impossible to negate yourself. Anything that is negatable is not Satya. Therefore, the one who goes on negating is Satya, the only one who cannot be negated. Everything else is subject to dismissal. That which is not subject to negation can only be the Atma, the Self. Thus, there is no absence, abhava, for the Atma. Like in all the three periods of time, the waker, you say, I am seeing, I am doing, I am talking. But in the dream state, the I is still there. I am dreaming. And then therefore you remember some of your dreams, even though vaguely. And then in the deep sleep, you're still there. I am there. That is why even after deep sleep, you're able to get up and say, Aham kimapi na janami sukhena maya nidra anubhuyata. I did not know anything, but I enjoyed. I had a very deep sleep. So who is that I? So that I is there in all the three states. So you cannot negate the I. And therefore that I is the Satya. So therefore there is no absence, abhava for the Atma. Only that which is subject to time can be asat. That which is not subject to time is sat. Sat cannot be dismissed because dismissal implies prior existence and posterior non existence, both of which are in terms of time alone, past, present, and future. That which is not subject to time and for which time itself is a dismissal object is called Satya Atma. This then is Krishna's constant refrain. Just as one gives up old clothes and takes on new ones, the one who dwells in this body, Deha, gives it up and assumes another body. Neither the Jiva nor Atma is subject to negation, the Jiva and Atma being one and the same. What can be negated, however, is the notion that I am limited, the Jivatva. The essence or Swarupa of the Jiva cannot be negated. Only the notion that I am a Jiva can be negated. The same point was also made by Krishna in another form when he said that the Atma is not an object for any act of destruction. Na ayam hanti na hanyate. The 19th verse of chapter 2. It is neither the performer of an action nor the object of anyone's action. In other words, the Atma is not subject to negation because it is not subject to destruction. No action can destroy it. Atma is indestructible. In the present verse, Krishna mentioned a few methods of destruction, none of which affects the Atma. At first, he talks of weapons which cannot destroy Atma. Later, he enumerates the elements that can bring about destruction. Generally, weapons are of two types: those weapons that are released from one's hand, like a rock, a bullet, or an arrow, and are called astras. Those held in the hand, like a stick, hammer, or sword, are called as shastras. So, one is that is you release it from the hand, whereas the other, that is astra, whereas those that are held in the hand are shastras. Here in the verse, the word shastra implies both types of weapons. With reference to weapons, then, the Atma does not subject itself to any type of objectification. This is so because the Atma objectifies everything. That which objectifies everything cannot be objectified by anything. The Atma yourself objectifies the whole world. The world does not reveal itself to you unless you objectify it. And the Atma cannot be objectified by anything. What is objectified is not going to objectify the objectifier because everything else shines after Atma. There is only one source of consciousness, and that is Atma, you. Everything else is an object of consciousness. How then is an object of consciousness going to destroy consciousness? Consciousness has no particular form. If it had a heart, it could have an attack. But it does not. If it does, we have had it. The Atma is the one because of which we are aware of the beating of the heart. It is the subject of every object. Because the Atma is not subject to objectification, it is not subject to any type of action, including destruction. Thus, weapons do not slay this Atma.
Fire also cannot destroy the Atma. Na enam dahati pavakaha. It can burn the body, but it cannot burn the Atma. Fire cannot even destroy the subtle body, Sukshma Sharira, let alone the Atma. Similarly, water cannot even wet the Atma, let alone drown it. Apaha enam na kledayanti, because it does not become an object that is subject to drowning, nor can the wind dry it up. Na enam shoshayati marutaha, meaning that Atma cannot be dehydrated. Thus, Krishna brings out all the elements earth, Prithvi, implied by the weapons and the metals with which they are made, does not destroy the Atma, nor do fire, water, and air. Air, Vayu, does not bring about the death of the Atma through dehydration. The word Maruta refers to the hot air of the tropical country, which can cause dehydration. The five element model of the world. Throughout the Shastra, we find a particular model that presents the world as made up of the five elements: space, Akasha, air, Vayu, fire, Agni, water, Apaha, and earth, Prithvi. In their subtle and gross forms, these elements account for everything that is here. The subtle elements account for the mind, senses, and so on. And the gross elements account for the physical body and the physical world. Your physical body comprises of five gross elements. It occupies space, Akasha. It contains air, Vayu, oxygen being present wherever there is blood. The body has temperature or heat, Agni, and its shape is due to the water, Apaha. It has as part of its composition. Finally, the body contains the same minerals that are found in the earth, Prithvi, calcium, carbon, magnesium, and so on. The physical universe can be defined in many ways. This elemental model is simply for understanding. Each of the elements, bhutas, enjoys the same degree of reality because they are all elements. Whatever the nature of reality is, Akasha has a certain degree of that reality. The same degree of reality is also enjoyed by the other four elements Vayu, Agni, Apa, and Prithvi. Only objects belonging to the same degree of reality can affect each other. For example, one physical body can definitely destroy another physical body. Similarly, a body and a weapon, both physical objects, belong to the same degree of reality. Therefore, the weapon can hit the body and injure or destroy it. Suppose, however, you want to destroy a tree with the shadow of another tree. It is impossible. Nor can you hit a dog with the shadow of a rock. This is because the object and the shadow belong to two different orders of reality and are therefore incapable of destroying each other. If one is to affect the other, both must enjoy the same degree of reality. The nature of destruction. Objects belonging to the same order of reality need not affect each other also. Space, for example, belongs to the same order of reality as the other four elements, but is not affected or destroyed by any of them. Air cannot dehydrate space, fire cannot burn it, and water cannot drown it. Nor can you take a sword in hand and destroy space. Space cannot be destroyed by bombing it, much less with a pistol. It cannot even be polluted. There is no such thing as space pollution. Only the atmosphere is polluted. The other four elements cannot destroy space because space has no form. Air, on the other hand, can be destroyed in the sense that one form can be changed into another. Air implies atoms, and atoms imply a structure, which can always be changed into a new structure. If hydrogen and oxygen are brought together in a certain way, water is created. Any structure is always available for change. It can become entirely different. One metal can be converted into another metal simply by changing its atomic weight. A base metal can be changed into gold in this way, although it is not economically feasible to do. The word death applies to a particular structure that no longer exists because it has been changed in some way. Shankara argues that anything that has limbs, attributes, or structure can be destroyed. Space, having none of these, cannot be destroyed, even by other elements that share the same order of reality. The Atma is also free from limbs, attributes, or structure. It is pure consciousness. I am aware of everything, including my thoughts, which objectify this entire world. Therefore, this consciousness, Atma, cannot be destroyed by any weapon or any other instrument of destruction because it is not available for objectification. Nothing can get at this Atma. Furthermore, nothing else belongs to the same order of reality. So it's very interesting that space is the connecting link between the order of reality that is determined by the Panchamahabhutas and the order of reality that Atma is. That is why they say space is the closest to Atma. That is why when we meditate, we get that we are in that Akash Tattva, wherein that is why we experience bliss. Because space, although it belongs to the same order of reality as the other four elements, cannot be destroyed. It cannot be burned, it cannot be wet, it cannot be dehydrated. Yet it belongs to the order of reality which is different from the Atma. Why? Because it is it is created by Maya. The self-evident Atma. Atma is Satya. Atma alone is self-evident and everything else is evident to it. Atma is self-shining and everything else shines after the Atma. The one that shines of its own accord is Atma. It requires no evidence for its existence. What is self evident is self existent, depending on nothing for its existence, whereas what is not self evident is not self existent and depends entirely upon that which is self existent. In this way, any given object depends upon another object. A clay pot depends upon clay, which is nothing but mud, and mud is nothing but atoms. Atoms depend on particles, and so on. Thus, everything depends upon something else, and that something else depends upon your concept, which depends upon consciousness. Consciousness alone depends on nothing. Therefore, everything shines after the self evident, self existent Atma. Naturally, then, the whole creation, the whole world is equal to Asat alone, Asat only. When everything is Asat and Atma alone is Sat, How can the Sat be destroyed by Asat? Air, fire, water, and earth exist because of Atma. Because Atma is Sat and the elements are Asat, they are incapable of destroying the Atma. The reflection cannot come out of the mirror to tease and destroy you any more than your own shadow can. If your reflection looks ferocious and frowning, that is only because you look so. There is no need to become anxious because your reflection is frowning and looks as though it is going to destroy you. If you run away from it, it comes chasing after you. Any chasing that is done is all in your mind. The reflection is not going to affect you because it is asat and you are sat. Since all of the elements are asat, they cannot do anything to Atma, which is sat. A problem may arise here, however, since a non existent thing also cannot be destroyed by anyone. Perhaps this Atma is non existent, zero, shunya. In the expression Vandhya Putra, the son of a woman who cannot give birth to a child, the son cannot be destroyed by anything. We are not talking here of an adopted son or a surrogate son, but of a non existent son. There is no sun to be burnt or drowned. Similarly, perhaps there is no Atma. This doubt could arise, but the next verse, along with Shankara's commentary, puts this doubt to rest. Yeah. So let's just close our eyes and reflect on all that we have listened to and understood. And let's just share. Few minutes, let's do some sharing. नैनं छिन्दन्ति शस्त्राणि नैनं दहति पावकः न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यापो न शोषयति मारुतः. So the central idea being ashocyan anvashochastvam. There is no cause for grief. Why? Because the Dehi is eternal. The Deha is subject to change, subject to death. Now Krishna is pointing out that the Dehi is such that it cannot be burnt by fire, it cannot be slashed by weapons, cannot be destroyed by weapons, cannot be wet by water. So he's furthering the understanding for Arjuna, saying nothing can destroy the Dehi. And the same order of reality, you can, number one is the objectification. Since Atma is the cause for every other object, none of those objects can do anything to Atma because it is the cause. And destruction is possible only if the objects are of the same order of reality. Like one physical body can destroy another physical body. But the shadow of a body cannot destroy the physical body because they are of two orders of reality. And how one other thing is possible, space, although it belongs to the same order of reality as the other four elements, cannot be destroyed by any of the four. And Atma is, space is the closest that we can understand Atma as, because it's all pervading.
Can we say that? Can we say that the space is the is that which that gives you that anubhuti of Atma? It is that space element. right? The other four, Vayu, Agni, Apa, Prithvi, these four, they have different degree of reality. But the Akasha has, it cannot, though it is existing, but it cannot be defined in terms of atoms or this thing. So it is like a vacuum, we can say, which is the link between the Atma and the sthul sharira, we can say, because our body is made up of, though it is made up of space also, space, Vayu, Agni, Prithvi, fire, everything, but that is the main link. So when we meditate, the space element, it does it increase or widens, or like how, like I just thinking like how the space element can be increased perpetually by ourselves. Can it be so? Just thinking over that.
Mm. See, when we do the Panchakosha meditation, you're going from the physical body, you're taking it step by step, from the Stula Sharira to the Sukshma Sharira, then the Karna Sharira. I think in the World Culture Festival that happened in Washington, D.C. last year, the year before last, 23. So there, after that, Gurudev conducted beautiful meditations. In that, he said, when you're meditating, you're in that space of that Karna Sharira. That's why you feel very spacey. And Karna Sharira is the bliss sheath, although it is still covered by ignorance. But you experience that bliss when you're in that element. But that again is not the it does not amount to realizing your Atma, recognizing the Atma.
Yeah. So most of the people who we cannot say the enlightened one, but those who are on this path and have increased themselves to a certain degree, most of these people, they must be relishing, and like they must be enjoying that space where there is bliss, but still they have not reached to that state, but most of them must be in that space only, no?
Yeah.
The family posted that one Percy's note about it. I listened to it about the grace and what he says about. Can you repeat it again? I mean, if you listen to it, I'm sure you. What Guru is saying.
Yeah, that was the central theme, was that truth is contradictory. On one side, we say God is not
like linear.
responsible. You are the one who put up the blueprint. And on the other hand, Gurudev in one of the other videos says, you are nothing. God, everything is done by grace. So that was what was contradictory. Truth is multidimensional. So it depends again on the context in which we are looking at.
Right. Yeah, he said something about spherical, not linear, like
Right.
that, and multidimensional.
Problem with our mind is we want everything to be linear. We understand everything linearly.
Yeah.
But then truth is spherical. It's like you can't say which came first, the hen or the egg. You go on in a circle. But our logical mind wants a reason. Like wants to get at it. So we'll stop here today. We'll do a meditation before we finish. Tomorrow, I think what we'll do, because we didn't, I just went in a flow, we'll repeat the verse 23 and then go further. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Shri Krishnarpanamastu.
Let's sit in silence. Spine erect, eyes closed, आंखें बंद रखें, रीढ़ की हड्डी सीधा रखें, चेहरे में मुस्कान हो। अपना पूरा शरीर पर ध्यान दें। अरबों खरबों अणु परमाणुओं से बना है हमारा शरीर। Our body is made up of trillions and trillions of cells, and they're all changing all the time. Our body appears to be stagnant, but it is full of changes every minute. Like a river, it's ancient, yet the water is new every minute. Nothing solid in your body, everything is fluid, everything is changing. Honor your own body. Our body is like the wick of a candle, and the mind is like the glow all around it. And your mind has no face, no shape, it's just energy. आपका मन का कोई चेहरा नहीं है, कोई रंग नहीं है। ऐसे ही सबका मन भी ऊर्जा ही है। Discard all the faces and see everyone only as energy. See everyone as just a silhouette with no face, and just consciousness, just energy. Let's take a deep breath in with a smile. मुस्कुराते मुस्कुराते गहरी सांस लीजिए और मुस्कुराते मुस्कुराते सांस छोड़िए। एक विराट ऊर्जा का एक अंग है आप। You are just a part of an ocean of energy. That's called the Brahman. Let's take a deep breath in और ओमकार का उच्चारण करते हैं। Let the sound of Om reverberate in every cell of your body, in every corner of your mind. Sound Om is purifying and energizing. Let's breathe in again. ओंकार एक एक कण को शुद्ध कर देता है और पवित्र कर देते हैं। फिर एक गहरी सांस लीजिए। ओम शांति शांति शांति। धीरे धीरे शरीर और परिसर के प्रति सजग हो जाए। एक गहरी सांस लीजिए। टेक ए डीप ब्रेथ इन and as you breathe out you may gently open your eyes.